Please give it back for my daughter's student loan. That cash, my mother-in-law took my money. I tried to relate. So what's the big deal about IIENG? Then when my mother-in-law finally said this, anyways, your daughter is ugly, so it doesn't matter how much money you have, I snapped. Enough. When I was about to protest, enough already. His deep voice boomed in the room. I am Kelly, 45 years old. My husband Ben passed away in an accident about 2 years after we got married, and I have been raising our only daughter Katie by myself for 22 years. I have been working part-time at a local supermarket for almost 10 years. I considered becoming a full-time employee, but it was hard to find a company that would hire me since Katie was often sick when she was young. Still, I worked desperately from job to job and finally settled in at the current supermarket. I couldn't even afford my own clothes or cosmetics, and I looked worn out. But seeing Katie smile made it all seem unimportant. We couldn't afford lavish meals or expensive birthday or Christmas presents. Even though we couldn't live comfortably, Katie grew up healthy and is now almost a third-year university student and soon to be 20. Katie never complained about our modest life. Instead, she would say, "I'll help you out, Mom," and she would take on multiple part-time jobs and help with household chores. She is a kind child. For Katie's future, I have been saving diligently for 22 years. Currently, Katie attends university with a scholarship, a student loan, and a special admission program. But you will have to start repaying the student loan once she graduates. I started saving so that Katie wouldn't struggle after becoming a working adult, and this year, the savings reached about $30,000. I couldn't do much for her when she was young, but I want to help her a little in the future. That's why I've been saving little by little over time, a precious savings. Even though I am a single mother, I am quite fortunate in my circumstances. Our family lives near my in-laws. My father-in-law adores Katie, the only grandchild and the legacy of his son. While I was at work, he would take care of Katie so she wouldn't feel lonely, and she became very attached to her grandfather. Kelly, if there's anything, always tell me. Thank you, always, Father. Thanks to my father-in-law, who always helped us, I have been able to come this far. He contributed more than half of the cost for Katie's Sweet 16. On the other hand, my mother-in-law has always shown little interest in her. Ever since Katie was young, she would say, "I hate noisy children." Apparently, my in-laws had an arranged marriage decided by their parents, and my mother-in-law was not pleased with marrying my father-in-law. Why do I, a beauty, have to marry such a plain man? She used to rage. Even after marriage, as a result, my mother-in-law never really adored Katie, nor did she much care for her only son, Ben. Even now, past her 60th birthday, my mother-in-law is only interested in dressing up. Moreover, whenever she met Katie and me, if my father-in-law wasn't looking, she would blurt out, "So plain and ugly for being so young." Since I became worn out from work, it has gotten even worse. Can't buy cosmetics, can't go to the salon. "You're just polishing your ugliness," she would say, making a point to come to my workplace to spit these words. We have been cautious of her and try to keep our distance as much as possible. One day, I glanced at the calendar with a red circle at the end of that month. Yes, it would be Katie's 22nd birthday. Katie has really grown up. Maybe it's time to hand it over. Muttering that, I took the bank check out of the drawer. $30,000 saved diligently over 22 years. I had planned to give this check to Katie when she turned 22. I was looking at the check, thinking she would surely use it for her benefit when suddenly the doorbell rang. I responded and left it on the desk. As I hurriedly opened the front door, I was shocked by the person standing there. Long time no see, Kelly. How have you been? Hello, what are you doing here all of a sudden? Yes, it was my mother-in-law standing there. She was dressed more flamboyantly than usual and was wearing a lot of jewelry. Had she been somewhere before coming here? Faced with her sudden visit, I couldn't help but be suspicious. It was the first time she had ever visited our house alone. Usually, just showing her face accompanied by my father-in-law once in a while. It was indeed surprising that she came alone all of a sudden. You won't even let your respectful mother-in-law in when I come to visit. Make some coffee, please. With that, she half forced her way into the house and strode toward the living room. I remembered the check I had left on the desk and hurried to stop her. Wait, please. What brings you here so suddenly? At least tell me what you need first. Oh, that's right, Kelly. Where is the money for Katie's birthday party? What? The birthday party money? Wait, please. Despite my attempt to stop her, she entered the living room. Then she noticed the check and said, "What's this?" and picked it up without permission. Please wait, don't just look at it like that. As I tried to snatch it from her, she looked clearly annoyed. It's your fault for leaving it out here, and that amount of savings is too much for just a birthday party, isn't it? Are you pretending to be poor while hoarding money? She glared at me accusingly. It's outrageous to force your way into someone's home like this. And this money is the savings for Katie's student loan repayment. Please give it back. I couldn't help but raise my voice emotionally. At that, my mother-in-law's eyes widened. How dare you defy your respectful mother-in-law? Besides, you and your daughter don't need this money. Both of you are ugly, so it's pointless to spend money on you, isn't it? I'll use this money. I've been wanting a ring that costs $330,000. Saying that, she stuffed the check into her bag. I panicked and grabbed her arm. What are you doing? This is a crime. Give it back. Oh, a crime, really? It's just a family matter, so it's not a crime. More importantly, let go of my arm. She then yelled toward the window. Ouch, it hurts. Kelly, this is abuse. Somebody help. Startled by her screams, I let go of her arm. I had grabbed her, but I hadn't applied enough force to cause pain. My mother-in-law smirked. Remember this. If you defy me again, I'll scream like that and spread bad rumors about you in the neighborhood. Then Katie and you won't be able to live in this town anymore. I doubt you poor people could afford to move. Oh, and of course, I'll make sure my husband sides with me. If you don't want that, don't go against me. After spitting out those words, she turned on her heel and left the living room. If bad rumors spread throughout the neighborhood, we couldn't stay here. But just as she said, I had no funds to move. Imagining Katie being whispered about by neighbors and at university, I was unable to say anything and just sat down. A few days later, sunk into despair, not even able to eat after having Katie's savings stolen by my mother-in-law. I sighed while cleaning the house when suddenly the doorbell rang. Hello, hello. As I opened the front door, a cheerful and gentle voice greeted me. Father, what brings you here? It was my father-in-law who had come to visit. I invited him in and immediately went to prepare some coffee and sweets. No need to trouble yourself. I'm sorry to make you work on your day off, he said with his usual kind smile. No, that's fine. By the way, what brings you here today? After a pause, he slowly said, Kelly, is there something troubling you? Katie came to me worried, saying Mom hasn't been herself lately. If there's anything I can help with, please don't hesitate to tell me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I heard his words. Katie, she was worried about me. However, I couldn't bring myself to tell him that the check had been taken by my mother-in-law. My in-laws have been married for many years. If he knew what happened, it would surely sadden him deeply. It might even tear their marriage apart. As I hesitated, he looked at me intently. Could it be that she is involved in this? Surprised by his words, I looked up. "Do you mean my mother-in-law?" I asked hesitantly, to which he nodded deeply. "She left the other day, saying I'm going to share with Kelly some souvenirs I got from a friend, but it was unusual for her to go alone. I offered to go with her, but she refused stubbornly. I had been suspicious, and then Katie came to me saying, 'You seem down.' Did something happen? It must have been the day my mother-in-law came to take the check." As I remained silent, just looking down, he began to speak earnestly. "If you're worried about our marriage, never mind. We're going to divorce soon." I looked up in shock at his words. "Divorce? What do you mean?" I knew that my mother-in-law had never been happy with her marriage and often threw tantrums. But I had never seen him complain about her, so I thought he was tolerating her behavior because he loved her. The news of their impending divorce was completely unexpected. Actually, she's been having an affair for years now, with a young man working at a nightclub, probably being milked for money. His face held a smile, but I could sense a coldness in his expression. "I've hired a detective, and all the evidence is already gathered. I was just waiting for the right time to bring it up. I didn't want to cause a stir before Katie's birthday party." The thought of my mother-in-law having an affair, despite how kindly my father-in-law treated her, left me speechless. As I struggled to respond, he smiled gently at me. "So don't worry about us. If something's bothering you, I want you to talk about it." Encouraged by him, I slowly began to speak. "Actually, I've been saving for Katie for 22 years, about $330,000. When my mother-in-law came the other day, she took the very check, and when I tried to get it back, she threatened to spread bad rumors in the neighborhood and to you, making it impossible for us to live here." As I spoke, tears flowed from my eyes. All the frustration and sadness I had been holding back came pouring out. Seeing that, he spoke gently. "So that's what happened. You've been holding that all by yourself. It must have been hard. I'm truly sorry. How can I even begin to apologize?" He apologized deeply, and I shook my head vigorously. "Please don't apologize, Grandpa. You haven't done anything." "No, let me apologize. It's my fault for letting her do whatever she wants. More importantly, Kelly, would you like to get back at her with me?" At that moment, the doorbell rang. I hurried to check the monitor and was shocked by what I saw. There at the front door was none other than my mother-in-law. "Hello, what are you doing here?" As I fumbled in confusion, my father-in-law placed his hand gently on my shoulder. It looks like she came just in time. "I'll hide in the living room closet. Kelly, you record the conversation on your smartphone's voice recorder. I'll come out if anything happens, so don't worry. Once she realizes you're alone in the house, she'll surely slip up." I nodded firmly at his words. After making sure that he was hidden, I went to greet my mother-in-law at the entrance. "You're a bit slow to come out, aren't you? Hurry up and make some coffee." As soon as she entered the house, she started with her sarcastic remarks, and I glared back at her. "What do you want? If it's money, there isn't any left." "Oh, there must be some left, right?" "I mean the money for Katie's birthday party. Actually, I came to get it last time, but after seeing the $30,000 on the check, I completely forgot. So I'm here today to collect the money for the party." "You said that $30,000 was for tuition, so you must have prepared something separately, right? Does she intend to take even the money meant for her granddaughter's birthday party?" At that moment, I felt anger painting over my heart. Why do you want to take even your granddaughter's happiness? As my hands trembled with rage, I mustered my voice. What's the big deal about that? I've said it many times, but ugly people won't benefit from dressing up. Isn't it embarrassing if someone ugly like Katie wears a dress? That's why I'm saying I'll use it. Look at this ring, isn't it lovely? It sure was worth $30,000. Money should be spent on beauties like me. She admired the large gemstone on her finger, looking utterly enchanted at her heartless words. Something inside me snapped. Enough, just as I was about to say something, enough already. His booming low voice shook the room as he burst out of the closet door. Honey, what are you doing in there? Seeing my father-in-law emerging from the closet, my mother-in-law couldn't hide her surprise. Ignoring her, my father-in-law advanced towards her with a fierce look. Do you even understand what you've done? What you have done is criminal. You will not get away with stealing the happiness of your daughter-in-law and granddaughter. His intense presence overwhelmed not only my mother-in-law, but me as well. He is usually such a calm person, and I had never even seen him get angry before, let alone raise his voice. Yet here he was, yelling at my mother-in-law with such emotion. Kelly, you set me up, didn't you? Complaining to my husband about this? What a coward. She glared at me accusingly. Enough is enough. I already know about the $30,000 you took from Kelly to buy matching rings. As he shouted, he pointed at the ring on my mother-in-law's finger. Matching rings? What are you talking about? I have no idea. Clearly flustered, she averted her eyes. Watching her, my father-in-law sighed deeply. I know everything. You're having an affair, aren't you? With that young guy, Ted, was it? That $30,000 ring, you bought it to match with him, right? When you realized you were running out of money to lavish on him, you remembered Katie's upcoming birthday party and decided to take Kelly's money, didn't you? In his words, the color drained from my mother-in-law's face. How did you know about that? I've always given you a credit card to be used freely, haven't I? The spending on that card has significantly increased over the past few years. When I checked the statements, I saw expenses for brand bags and cosmetics had gone up, and there were also charges from a nightclub. Calmly, my father-in-law spoke, and my mother-in-law's eyes widened in shock. Do you check the statements? But that's my personal credit card. That's a violation of privacy. Even at this point, my self-centered mother-in-law's attitude only exasperated my father-in-law. Even though you say it's your personal credit card, all the payments are made by me. You haven't worked at all, so if there's a sudden increase in spending, of course I'm going to check. Unable to find a response, her face turned red as she trembled with agitation. I've hired a detective, and all the evidence has been gathered. I thought you'd want to see Katie's radiant moment at her birthday party, so I was waiting until after that to divorce you. What a mistake that was. You tried to steal Katie's birthday party money and belittled both Katie and Kelly. With this, I can divorce you right now. The calm yet formidable tone of my father-in-law was chilling. Well, that's fine. I have Ted. He's been saying he wants to marry me. If you divorce me, I'll just marry him, so this works out better for me. My mother-in-law still seemed to have an air of nonchalance, but my father-in-law just smiled slightly. That Ted guy, you know. He's been living with another woman, and apparently he has 3 other mistresses, all in their early 20s, I've heard. It seems he doesn't even consider you a mistress. Do you really think he will marry you? What? That can't be true. Ted would never do that. Shocked, my mother-in-law covered her face with her hands and quickly pulled out her phone to make a call. Hello, Ted. Is it true you're cheating on me? What do you mean? How much do you think I've spent on you? As she started arguing loudly on the phone, My father-in-law watched her with a detached gaze. "It's fine to argue, but this is Kelly's house. Please take it outside." With that, he coldly ushered my mother-in-law outside, half dragging her. After a while, it seemed she had finished her phone call with the cheating partner, and she began pounding on the door. "Honey, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Forgive me. The only one I truly love is you." Hearing her desperate apologies through the door, my father-in-law responded firmly. "Who is it that kept saying, 'I don't love you,' and the family? I've indulged you too much because I felt sorry. You were unhappy with our marriage, but that's over now. If you're going to cause trouble for Katie and the rest, I'm cutting ties with you." Through the door, the sobbing sounds of my mother-in-law could be heard. "No, wait. I'm sorry, really sorry." Her cries of distress echoed endlessly beyond the door. Soon after, the divorce between them was finalized. My father-in-law claimed a lump sum and property division from my mother-in-law, and I also demanded repayment of the $30,000 she stole. As a result, my mother-in-law, who had no savings, ended up deep in debt. Soon after that, her lover disappeared. My mother-in-law, who had been believing in him until the very end, stormed into the nightclub in near madness and was spectacularly banned from visiting again. She had damaged some equipment during the incident, and later the nightclub also demanded damages, doubling her debt. For a while, she incessantly pleaded for reconciliation with my father-in-law, but after he threatened to involve a lawyer if she contacted him again, she reluctantly ceased her efforts. My mother-in-law, who had never worked before, is now doing dirty, grueling physical labor as a living worker. The elegant appearance she once maintained is gone, and she is physically and mentally worn out. Meanwhile, we recently celebrated Katie's birthday without a hitch. Katie looked stunning, and my father-in-law and I were moved to tears when I gave Katie the restored $30,000. "Thank you. I will work hard to repay Mom and Grandpa," Katie determinedly added. "I'll take Mom and Grandpa on a trip with my first paycheck." Filled with warmth, both my father-in-law and I look forward to watching Katie continue to grow into a respectable adult.